Hey, Zoom friends. All right, we are going to start with our homework, which I believe is on page 44. Is that correct? Cool. Eventually, I'm going to start having bell ringers. Whenever I can get my life together, we will do bell ringers, okay? But until I get my life together, we're just going to go straight to homework, okay? So does anyone have any specific questions? Need me to kind of just work through everything? What y'all thinking? What? Do what? Nobody? Oh, y'all talking to each other. Was your homework easy? You thought it was easy? Pretty good? Wasn't bad? So I don't need to go over any of them. You sure? Yeah. Absolutely. I'll be happy to do 24. Actually, I'm just going to read you the answer to 24 so that you can get exactly what the book is asking.
Were we not supposed to do the check your understanding?
No, that was not part of your homework. But if you did it, good for you.
Bonus points, question mark?
No, exclamation mark. I don't know whose voice that is, but love you. Who is it? Oh, okay, Lake. Cool. I do love you, Lake. All right, so 24, it says, a postulate is a statement that is accepted as true without proof. Okay, so you don't have to prove it. It's just like true. It's kind of like one of those undefined words. So postulate is accepted as true without proof, whereas a conjugate it must be proven using deductive reasoning before it can be accepted as true. A conjecture. I said the wrong thing. Conjecture must be proven by using deductive reasoning. I mean, whatever you put down, you're fine. All the other ones, y'all are good. With the midpoints, 21, y'all are okay with having to figure out 1/4 of. 21's answer, P is located at 8. You want me to work that one? Okay, so for this one, again, you're doing one-fourth of FG. FG is the distance between F and G. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the distance using the absolute value difference. So what's 4 minus 20? Negative 16. The absolute value of negative 16 is 16. So I need to do 1/4 of means to multiply 16. So what's 1/4 of 16? 4. So I need to move forward 4 units from F. So F is currently at 4. So you're just doing 4 plus 4, which is what gets you to 8. So P is located at 8. All right. Everybody's okay with the midpoint? Number 20. 19 was just doing segment addition postulate. 22 was you just basically explaining how they could make that adjustment. Let me see what the book says. The book says align one endpoint with the mark for 3 inches. Align the other endpoint with the ruler. Then note that the mark closest to the endpoint, then subtract 3 from that mark. So if you got, here's your thing, you line 3 up here, and if it goes to, let's say, 7, you would just say, okay, 7 minus 3. So this is 4 inches long. Does that make sense? That's how you could do it. All right, so all good. Okay, I will, if y'all have homework questions, whether you're virtual or whether you're here, I will work every one of those problems out. That's not a big deal. I just don't want to waste your time, okay? So I don't know what's easy for you guys or what's hard for you guys, so I don't ever want to just sit here and waste y'all's time. So that's why I ask, just tell me what you need me to go over. I'll go over it. If we need to go over the whole assignment, we can go over the whole assignment, okay? I also, just on my planning period, printed your scores for your Edge Elastic quiz and released that. okay? So you can go to Edulastic and you can see what score you got. You can also see what you got correct, what you missed. Those are not in JCampus yet, okay? So I know your progress reports go out tomorrow, but I just didn't have time to get those in JCampus today. So some of you did not do that quiz, so you get a 0 for that. That is a quiz grade that you'll get a 0 for. So I am going to offer bonus probably at the beginning of October. So you're going to need to do that bonus, okay, to make up for getting a 0 on a quiz. So that's a 30-point assignment that you just got a 0 on because you did not do your work, okay? Does anybody have any questions? I know Dixie already got with me about grades. Anybody else email me wondering if I got it? I was telling Dixie that I'd like screenshot y'all's emails so that I can remember to actually go back and do them. So I have not gone through my screenshots. So if you have messaged me in the last 24-ish hours, I probably haven't made that adjustment yet. Okay, cool. All right, so we are starting lesson 4.2 on page 45. So we're going to go through this lesson, and I think you'll probably have time to work on your homework in class, and then you already heard you had to eat lunch with me again today, so sorry about that. All right, so this lesson is about angles and angle bisector. So yesterday, if you were zooming with us or you watched back, we were introduced to the vocabulary word bisect. What does bisect mean? Cuts it in half, okay? So we're going to be cutting angles in half today instead of just cutting segments in half, all right? So then our learning targets, what we want to accomplish today is apply the angle addition postulate and use the definition of angle bisector. What I need y'all to start doing is writing your names on your pages because I'm definitely starting to see some copying. Okay, so I'm starting to see some things twice. And even with Cami, okay, like somebody took a picture of someone else's Cami and submitted that. Because when you submit Cami, it comes to me with your name stamped in the file name. You cannot do that. You cannot do that, okay? So if you're going to use Cami, you must submit it through Cami or save the PDF document and send that to me. You cannot submit pictures of someone else's Cami document, okay? I'm not giving you credit for that. So yes, all of that's still the same, but I just need y'all to start putting your names on things because people are starting to copy each other and just blatantly copy, just submitting someone else's picture, okay? And if I really wanted to get crazy, like I could go and like look at the file names for the pictures that you guys are uploading. So don't make me get crazy. Just start putting your names on your work. That way, if someone's going to copy your work, they got to at least do their own writing. They cannot just submit your pictures because you're going to get in trouble for that when it comes back to figuring out who matches, because I teach a lot of students, and so it's not necessarily in this class, but it's like somebody in 4th hour and 7th hour or 7th hour and 6th hour or whatever it is. So start putting your names on every single sheet of paper. So at the top of page 45, write your name. The top of page 46, write your name. I know that's annoying, but that's the only way I can keep people from submitting other people's pictures. All right, so here we go. This is a protractor. We're not going to get a protractor out today because of the coronavirus, but if you've never used a protractor before, there's like a little hole or an indentation right there in the middle. You line that up with the vertex, okay? So you'll take that, you'll line that up with the vertex, and then there's a line here, okay, on the bottom of your protractor. You'll line the line up with a ray of the angle. So you take one of the rays, line the 0 up with that ray, and then you'll be able to see how many degrees until it gets to the other side of the angle or the other ray. So for this one, EOD, what's the degrees of EOD? 30, because we're here at 0 and this is at 30, so that's going to be 30 degrees. So that's how you read a protractor. So that's EOD. So you go ahead and do the other ones. Do B, C, E, and F.
What do we do for number 2 if we don't have a protractor?
You don't. I'm going to give you the answers.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so what's BOC? That's 40 degrees, okay, because this is at, and what's cool about a protractor is you've got both the upper numbers and the lower numbers. So you can see like this is 50 right here and this is 90, or you could know this is 90, this is 130. But either way, it's still going to give you the same 40 degrees, okay? What about BOD? That's 100. This is 30. This is 130, so that's 100 degrees. What about AOC? AOC is 90 degrees, and BOE. BOE would be 130 because you're going from 0 all the way to 130. So any questions on reading a protractor? I don't expect you to go to buy a protractor. You do not need a protractor for this class. If I ever want you to have one, I'll let you borrow mine and then just Lysol them off. Okay, so it's not really that big of a deal for you to have a protractor. When you take your EOC at the end of the year, they, if they want you to have a protractor, it's a digital one. Okay, and so I'll give you some practice with using digital protractors so that you can find things, but don't go buy one. You don't need to tell your parent to get you a protractor. It's not that important. All right, so for this next one, obviously it says use a protractor. We're not going to do that, but I want you to look at these and let's kind of get what's going on with this lesson. So TQP, I'm going to tell you is 115. And then TQR is 24. So you tell me, what is RQP? And how did you get 139? That's exactly right. And that's what we are doing today. We are going to be learning the angle addition postulate. It works exactly like the segment addition, but instead of adding little plus big segments, you're doing little plus little equals big angles. So for this one down here, number 4, they're saying given that point D is the interior of angle ABC, describe how to determine the measure of ABC without measuring if you are given the measures of angle ABD and DBC. Now that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. I need to see an angle. Okay, so I'm just drawing an angle, and that's angle ABC. Okay, it says that D is the interior, which means it's somewhere on the inside. There. So they're telling you you have the measure of ABD. You know what this is. You also know what DBC is. So you know what this is. So what would you do to find angle ABC? You add them. Just like the segment addition, but it's angle addition. So again, it's the little plus the little equals the big. And that is for any angle, okay? Any angle will work that way. It doesn't have to be acute or obtuse or right or anything specific. It's for any angle, okay? And that's how you would use the angle addition postulate. And that's what you did up here. You knew that one of them was 115, the other one was 24. So to get the missing value that I didn't give you, you simply added those together. Vice versa, if I was to give you the whole angle and one of the little parts, how would you find the other little part? You'd subtract, just like we did with the segments, and that's how you would get 24. Okay, all right, flip the page. Make sure at the top of page 46 you put your name. Write your name. Not that anyone in this class would ever cheat or anyone in my Zoom meeting, but we just have to be on the up and up. All right, so number 5. Number 5 says use the angle addition postulate and the given information to complete each statement. So just like I was drawing each of the segments out, I also think it helps to draw each of the angles out so that you can see them. It says that P is the interior of angle XYZ. Now you don't have to have anything fancy. I mean, I can even be super lazy and not even put the dots or the arrows, okay? But just having that little bit helps you see it a little bit clearer. So X, angle XYP is 25. And angle, the measure of angle PYZ is 50. What they want to know is what is the measure of angle XYZ? 75 degrees, because you take your little plus your little and it gives you the big. Okay, then we have B over here. Okay, so B tells us that M is the interior and our angle is RTD. So we know RTM is 40. And we know that RTD, which is the whole thing, is 65. So if part of it is 40 and the whole thing's 65, what's MTD going to be? 25. And you know that because 65 minus 40 equals 25. All right, easy, very basic. Now we're going to look at some algebra. So C includes some algebra. It says if H is the interior. So let me draw this out. There's H. And what are we dealing with? E, F, G. I'm sorry, y'all. That's my cell phone, I think. All right, so EFH is 75 degrees. And HEG is 10x degrees. And the whole thing is 20x minus 5 degrees. So how are we going to find x? Little plus little equals the big. Okay, so what's one of the littles? Plus what's the other one? And you don't have to worry about putting the parentheses or the degrees. None of that is going to be any kind of important when we're working this out mathematically. What's the whole angle? 20x minus 5. Okay, So from there, then you just start solving it algebraically. So I'm going to subtract 20x just because I like for my x to be on this side. I'm going to subtract 75. So what's 5 minus 75? Is that, that's negative 80, right? Negative 5 and negative 75 is negative 80. Divide by negative 10. So what's that going to give us? Positive 8. Okay, so x is positive 8. Now, then they take it a step further and say, okay, well, that's cool, but what I really want to know is what is the measure of angle F or HE, oh my goodness, of HFG. So what is that going to be? It's going to be 80. Good, because you're going to take that 8 and plug it in. 10 times 8 is 80. Okay. All right. Now, D. D tells us that lines BD or DB intersect with EC. Okay, so they're telling us that those lines are intersecting at point F. Okay, then it goes on to tell us that the measure of angle, I hope y'all got that before I erase that. Got too much on this board. The measure of BFC is 44. Okay, so if that's 44, who else is 44? EFD, okay, because those are vertical angles. The ones that are directly across from the intersecting lines are going to be congruent, okay? So we know that that is 44, which is actually one of our questions. EFD down here is 44 degrees. Those are called vertical angles. Vertical angles are the ones that are directly across each other, and I always say that they touch noses. But if we go back to the initial question, it says that AFB is 61. They want to know what is AFC. And how did you get that? Perfect. You take the two littles, you add them together, and that gives you the big 105. Okay. What about AFE? How would you get AFE? You know that this is 105. From what? That's right, okay, because these are supplementary, okay? So what he's doing is he's taken this angle here, which we already know is 105, and then he's subtracting it from 180 because together they're supplementary, they make a straight line. So then you know they have to equal 180. So what is 180 minus 105? Thank you. I do know the answers, but like it's really not fun if I just sit here and give you all the answers. It's way more fun if you guys participate. Okay. All right. So that's that. Everybody okay with the angles, kind of figuring things out? You're doing some problem solving. You know some parts, and it's just adding to what you already know. Got it? Okay. All right. So at the second part of that page, it says the bisector of an angle is a ray that divides the angle into two congruent adjacent angles. So you're dealing with two congruent adjacent angles. It says, for example, if ray BD bisects angle ABC, Then angle ABD is congruent to angle DBC. So it's just like it was when we were dealing with the segments, okay? If we had a midpoint, that midpoint is right there in the middle. If it was bisected, it was cut in the middle, which means we're dealing with two equal parts, okay? Your whole angle has been cut in half. All right, so let's look at number 6. Number 6 says, given that ray AH bisects the angle MAT, determine the missing measure. All right. Whoops. So this is not for this one. It's down here. We got our own situation. So again, we could draw this out. MAT. And then we have a ray that is splitting it in half. So I did my best to make that half. It may not be exact, but close as I can. Okay? Now, it tells us that MAT is the whole thing. If the whole thing is 70, then what is MAH? Why is it 35? That's right, it's half. Okay, so you take that 75, you split it in half, that's where we get the 35. Okay, now the next one says HAT, the measure of HAT is 80. Well, that's this one. That's 80. What is the measure of angle MAT? What's the whole thing going to be? It's going to be 160. How do you know it's going to be 160? Good. You double it. Okay. So you know one of the smaller pieces. So you take that smaller piece and you double it. Okay. Questions? These little math tips I've been skipping, but they are good. This one says adjacent angles are coplanar angles that share a vertex and the side, but no interior points. In the figure at the right here, ABD is adjacent to DBC. Okay, so those are adjacent angles. It says congruent angles are angles that have the same measure. To indicate congruency, you can either write the measure is equal to the measure or the angle is congruent to the angle. Okay? All right, page 47. I see lots of noses. Y'all cover those noses up. All right, it says on page 47 at the top, you can use definition, postulates, and properties of algebra to determine the measures of angles. So there's a lot of things that we can do to determine the measures of angles, and they're going to give you an example right there. Example A says, if a ray QP bisects an angle DQL, the measure of angle DQP equals 5x minus 7, and the measure of PQL equals 11 plus 2x. Determine the measure of angle DQL. Now, for me, if I don't draw that out, I am lost. Like, it's just too much. Okay, it's just too much to kind of picture in my head. Shane, you with me, baby? Okay, something must be super important. It's not? Okay, well then put that phone up. Pay attention. So we are going to, or I am going to draw this out. And you're supposed to be doing what I'm doing. Okay, so you need to sketch this out with me because y'all are boring me. Y'all are just like staring into space. Okay, so draw that out. Draw out your little angle right there. And so it says DQL. That's our major angle. And then P is going to be the bisector. What does a bisector do? Cut it in half. Okay? So it says that DQP, which is one of the smaller ones, is 5x minus 7. Then it says PQL is 11 plus 2x. So they want us to determine the measure of the entire angle. Well, before we can determine the measure of the entire angle, what do we have to solve for? X. And how are we going to find x? Well, if we add them together, what are we going to set them equal to? Well, that's what we're going to do, is set them equal to each other. But we can't add them together because we don't know the whole angle. If they said the entire angle was 54, then yes, you could do it that way. But they didn't. The only thing that you know is that you have a bisector, which means these two things are going to be equal to each other, and you know those two smaller parts. So the only thing that we can do to solve is set them equal to each other, just like you did with a segment. If we had a segment, we had the midpoint, and they gave us this is x, this is 2x, well, then you could just set them equal to each other and solve. Okay, so it's the same thing, it's just dealing with an angle. So they set them equal to each other, and they solve, and they get x equals 6. Ta-da. But that's not what the question asks. The question wants to know, what is the measure of the entire angle? So what they did is they plugged it in here and got 23. Did they have to plug it in again? Well, why? Why not? They're equal. If this one's 23, you already know that that one's going to be 23 because it's a bisector. So you could have saved yourself just a tiny step right there and just doubled 23 to know that your whole angle is going to be 46. Okay? Cool? All right. Now, look at try these A. I'm going to work with you through the first one, then I'm going to let you work through the second one on your own, unless y'all just want to try both of them. Y'all want to do, you want me to do A? Okay. It says, given the ray FL bisects the angle AFM. All right. Draw your angle. I always draw acute angles, but I'm just sketching it, okay? So I don't know exactly what it even is. I'm just sketching out an angle, drawing my bisector. So AFM is the outer angle, and then the ray is FL, like so. Now, it says that LFM is 11x plus 4. LFM is this one. So 11x plus 4. And then AFL is 12x minus 2. What do you know about those two things? They are equal to one another. So I just take those two things and set them equal to each other. We know they are equal because it says that this is a bisector. Then we just solve. Okay, so x equals 6. Is that what you got? Then we have the request to find the measure LFM. Well, LFM is 11x plus 4. So I plug in 6. What's 11 times 6? 66 plus 4 is 70. And they also want to know what AFM is. Now, do I need to work anything out for that? Like, do I need to plug in the other 12 times 6 minus 2? No, because I know if this is 70, what's this one? So that means the whole thing is 140. You just double it. Okay? So we just double it to get that because you know it's been bisected, it's been cut in half, so you literally just take that and double it. You try B. You see about B. Oh. Okay. How did you set this problem up? Perfect. And why did you say 2? Why did you multiply by 2? That's exactly right. Very good. So she knows that this one's going to be exactly the same thing because of the bisector. Cut it in half. So there's now 2 of those. So you could either write it twice or you could just distribute that 2. And that's what I would do. I would do the distributive property. So I distribute the 2 for both of those. That's 8x minus 20 equals 6x minus 2. Subtract 6x. So 2x add 20 equals 18, so x equals 9. Okay, now LFM is the angle that they didn't give us. Okay, they didn't tell us what this was, but I already wrote it as the same thing because I know it's going to be congruent. So all I need to do is plug it into what it's congruent to and solve. So what is 4 times 9? What's 36 minus 10? So it's 26 degrees. Number 7 talks about complementary. What do we know about complementary angles? They add up to be 90 degrees. So what are you going to do to find each measure? Add them and do what with them? They have to equal 90 because they're complementary. So you take each of the angles, add the angles together, set them equal to 90. So how many x's do we have? And 7 plus 11 is 18. Good job. Y'all are killing me. All right, how do I get x by itself? Thank you. Subtract 18. 9x now equals. Thank you. 72. Divide by 9. X equals. That's 8, but that's not what it asks. It wants to know what is each of their measures. So how do we figure out what one of the measures is? Plug it in. The measure of A is going to be 3, and instead of x, I'm going to plug in 8 plus 7. What's 3 times 8? What's 24 plus 7? So 31 degrees is A. Do I need to plug in to 6x plus 11, or can I simply just subtract from 90? Doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer, so you do whatever, fits your fancy. I am going to subtract from 90. What's 90 minus 31? Is it 59? So that's going to be the other angle. So the measure of angle A is 31. The measure of angle B is 59. They are complementary because together they are 90 degrees. Cool? All All right, I know, it is very cool. Thank you. Number 8, flip the page, number 8. Make sure you put your name on the top of that new page. So write your name, and then let's do number 8. 8 says, in the diagram at the left, line AC and line DB intersect as shown. Determine the angle CEB. Now, who's CEB congruent to? DEA. That's right, angle DEA, because they are directly across from each other, and that's what we call vertical angles. They are vertical angles. They touch on the nose. So we know that they're going to be the same, but how do I find DEA? Good, because what are those two angles? Supplementary. Okay, those two are supplementary, so they're going to equal 180. Good job, y'all. What's 5x and 9x? 14x plus 68 equals 180. I solve quickly because that's not really geometry. That's an Algebra 1 skill. So I'm just assuming that you know how to solve. If you are struggling with that, let me know and we can do things slower to kind of review. But otherwise, it should be easy. What's 180 minus 68? 112, right? And then we divide by 14. What's x equal? 8? I don't know that one. My calculator. Somebody got 8? Did y'all get 8? 114, no, 112. Divided by 14, yeah, that's 8. All right. So x is 8, but our question is, what is the measure of CEB? So what do? That's right. If we plug it into this one, we will know that it's going to be the same. It will be congruent because they are vertical angles. So what's 5 times 8? What's 40 plus 68? So it will be 108 degrees. All right, ray KN is a bisector of angle JKL. Explain how you can find the measure of angle JKN if you know the measure of JKL. We know JKL, that's the big angle. How are we going to find one of the smaller angles? That's right, cut it in half. Divide it by 2, cut it in half, whatever you want to say. But it has an angle bisector, so it has been cut in half. They are equal parts. Number 10, in the diagram, the measure of angle 1 is 4x plus 30. The measure of angle 3 is 2x plus 48. What do you know about the angles 1 and 3? They're congruent because they are vertical angles. So you know those are congruent, so we could set those two things equal to each other, and that would allow us to solve for x, right? But the question is, write a step-by-step explanation for how you would tell an absent classmate how to find the measure of 2. Okay, so we solved for x. What are we going to do once we get x? Plug it in. That's going to give us 1 and 3. What do we do once we have 1 and 3? How are we going to get? Good. We're going to subtract that from 180 because angle 3 and angle 2 are supplementary, or angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. So first thing they need to do is set the measure of angle 1 equal to the measure of angle 3. That's the first thing that they would need to do. Then, after they do that, solve for x. Once they solve for x, they're going to plug x in to find angle 1 or angle 3. They don't necessarily need both, just one or the other. So then once they have 1 or 3, what are they going to do? Subtract the measure of angle 1 or the measure of angle 3 from 180. So those would be the steps that you would tell your friend or classmate. Number 11. 11 says that angle RST is adjacent to TSU. What do they have in common? Which ray? They have ST in common. You see how they both have that? ST, TS, they share that. So like if I was going to sketch that out, I would have R, S, T, T, S, U. Okay, and that's just a sketch, just a rough sketch. It goes on to say that RST is 40 degrees and TSU is 50 degrees. It says, explain how you can use the angle addition postulate to show that RSU is a right angle. Add the two smallers, 40 plus 90. That's going to give you 90 degrees. If it's 90 degrees, it's a right angle. Okay, your homework is numbers 12 through 16 on page 48. Make sure you submit notes and homework with your names on each page. Okay? All right. Virtual people, y'all good? Have any questions? All right. Have a great rest of the day.